All right, it is that 2 o'clock time. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Okie 811 webinar, Emergency and Damage Reports. My name is William Bohannon. I'm an Education and Outreach Liaison with Okie 811. As we go through today, please remember a few housekeeping items. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will address them as soon as possible. If you have any questions but aren't feeling up to sharing them here, you're always welcome to send any of them to education@okie811.org. With all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started.
Accidentally cut cable lines are to blame for disrupting hundreds of flights in and out of DFW International Airport and Love Field on Friday. Tonight, the FAA says the problem underscores the need to modernize the nation's air traffic control system. NBC5's Katie Blakey has more on the mess airlines and passengers are still trying to unravel.
With flights back in the air Saturday, inside DFW Airport, airlines and passengers worked to recover from the night before.
It was just kind of a stressful evening for us. I mean, of course, it could be our age made it more stressful for us.
The Zimmermans are taking their vacation disruption in stride after a major telecommunications outage caused ground stops and delays at both DFW and Love Field.
We got a message last night saying that our flight had been canceled and that they would notify us of another flight, which they did not, by the way. So then we started scrambling, trying to find another flight.
The FAA is blaming Dallas-based Frontier Communications for multiple failures disrupting radar.
What was going on in the video itself in that example was that there was a fiber line that was hit in Dallas-Fort Worth, and it shut down the airport for a while, which that itself was a damage and did cause an emergency. So today, we're going to be discussing some crucial aspects for the differences between damages and emergencies, what those reports look like with Okie 811, and by the end of this session, you should be able to recognize what constitutes as damage to an underground facility, apply the correct immediate response should a damage occur, know the difference between that damage and an emergency, know who to report to and what information to provide, properly documenting the incidents themselves, and understanding more about emergency tickets and reporting. So we'll go through these topics a little bit deeper as we progress throughout this webinar. Let's go ahead and jump into understanding Okie 811's role in all of this. Now, for anyone planning to dig in Oklahoma, Okie 811 is a key player, right? So first, it's important to know that contacting Okie 811 before you dig is not just a recommendation, it is the law. This ensures that you are in compliance with the Oklahoma Underground Facilities Damage Prevention Act. Okie 811 serves as Oklahoma's one call system, effectively acting as the bridge between those who plan to dig and the utility operators in that area. This communication is essential for preventing damage to underground utilities. Operators respond to the ticket generated through the Okie 811 system and mark their utilities in that area. Okie 811 does not mark or locate these lines. We just communicate those with the operators who own the lines. Now, remember, Okie 811 is here as a damage prevention service and communication hub to help keep everyone safe and informed. By having a compliant ticket, you ensure that you are following the legal procedures before any excavation begins. So, looking at the OUFDPA, the Oklahoma Underground Facilities Damage Prevention Act, it is an Oklahoma State Statutes Title 63, which is Public Health and Safety, in Section 142. It states that you must have a compliant ticket to excavate, and if any damages occur, they must be reported by that excavator. Why is it important to report damages? Understanding that importance is very, very critical for everyone involved in excavation work. So, Damages to underground lines can cause serious consequences, including serious injury or death. There are also risks of fire or explosions, which not only endanger lives but can also cause extensive property damage. There's also service interruptions. That's another very significant concern. Think about the disruption caused when critical services like gas, electricity, fiber are suddenly cut off. Businesses, homes, hospitals, airports, and more rely on these services for day-to-day operations. So a break in these lines can lead to major disruptions. Property damage itself, and then of course, failing to report any damages can lead to fines and legal action. It's not just about our compliance with the law, but it's also about maintaining safety and responsibility in your community. We want you to remember that reporting is a safeguard for everyone. So with that, what is considered damage? When we talk about damage to utilities, it's important to understand that even the smallest physical change can have consequences. Consider this: a cut, dent, scrape, puncture, scratch, or even the removal of a coating or its supports. These can be considered damages. It might seem minor, but each of these changes can compromise the integrity of the utility. So here's a little scenario for you. Imagine that you have a brand new car. It's your dream car. Would you consider a dent in the door, a scratch on the hood, perhaps even a chip in the windshield damage? When you're working near utilities, remember that any alteration, no matter how small it is or how small it may appear, it needs to be reported. This is an understanding for maintaining utilities and preventing future problems that can compound later, such as utility decay or line leaks. Damage reports are mandatory and need to be immediate. If any underground facility is damaged, exposed, or compromised, you need to contact the utility operator and Okie 811. It's important to recognize that even if there isn't a visible leak or interruption, you must take action right away. First, contact the utility operator and notify them of the damage, leak, scrape, dent, etc. Second, you must call Okie 811 to create a damage report ticket. The ticket documents the events and maintains a record. These reports should occur immediately, as soon as it is safe to do so. Okay, it looks like we were doing good with the sound then.
Yes,
right.
sound is working though.
Okay, fantastic. I was just seeing the chain and making sure.
I think it was only the video. You may continue though.
Fantastic. Thank you, Luis.
Of course.
Awesome. So when you come across damage, or if you damage an underground line, your immediate response is vital to safety. The golden rule is to stop. You want to stop your work immediately. This is top priority to prevent any further damage or risk. Next, you want to make sure that you shut down any equipment, but only if it is safe to do so. This helps prevent any potential ignition sources and reduce risk of further complications. Move personnel away. It's important to move them away from the site to a safe distance, ensuring the safety of everyone involved. Moreover, as personnel are moved away, secure the area. This means putting up any necessary boundaries or warnings to keep others from entering the potentially hazardous area itself. Finally, wait for instructions from the operator or authorized personnel. They will give you a guide on next steps for safe resolution. Now, remember, stop, pause, move away. Make sure that you are contacting the utility operator and Oki 811. The utility operator will be providing instructions. Again, remember the golden rule to stop. It's a simple step that can prevent further damages and maintaining safety. So, how can we tell when a damage is an emergency or not? Recognizing the difference between the two is very important to know how to respond. In situations where there is immediate danger, such as a gaseous odor, visible leak, electrical sparks, fire, explosion, injuries, anything that you would deem danger to the public, evacuate, move everybody away, contact 911, contact the utility operator, and Oki 811. Again, making sure that that area is secure and that other individuals will not have access to the area. And it is very important to document all throughout. Now, if it's not an emergency, what does that look like? In situations where there's no immediate danger, it's also critical to remain calm and maintain the following steps. So, things that would not be considered an emergency, such as schedule restrictions. If there's not a leak, there's not a fire, there are not sparks or injuries or gaseous or hazardous materials flowing, it's important to stop the work, secure the area, contact the facility operator, contact Oki 811, document and await instructions. Now, it's important, again, to remember the differences between an emergency and non-emergency when a damage occurs. It is also very important to communicate what elements of the emergency or non-emergency are present to the utility operator and Oki 811 to ensure that everything is being correctly documented and that appropriate response is provided. So let's look at it from a different angle. Steps to follow when a line is damaged. This is just a little example of how that flow should go. So, first, remember your initial response should always be to stop. Next, secure that area to limit access to potential exposure to any of those hazards. Once that area is secure, it's crucial to assess the risk of, is it an emergency? Is it not an emergency? And what response needs to come from that. So, there is immediate danger, evacuate, call 911, contact the utility operator, let them know what is going on with this damage, let them know what level of emergency it may be, contact Oki 811, providing the same information, and then follow your internal protocol. Now, internal protocols should include things like an emergency action plan. And if you are not familiar with this document, contact your supervisor to be prepared and informed should an event occur. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. In cases where there is no immediate danger, your steps may differ slightly. Begin by contacting the utility operator at OK 811. Ensure that you document thoroughly and wait for further instructions. So with both of them, it's all about stopping the work, moving away, making sure that you're contacting the utility operator and OK 811. Should there be an immediate danger, contact 911. Now, when it comes to reporting and documentation, we need to be thorough and precise. Firstly, you should also record the dig ticket number that you have. If you are currently working and let's say you have your normal compliant ticket, you scratch a line, and you need to make a damage report. You're going to need to reference the ticket number that you're working under, what time the damage occurred, what company you are working for, and providing that contact information. Again, providing that exact location within that normal compliant ticket, letting us know and the operator know what occurred, what happened. Is there a specific line type, if you do know it, that was damaged? And then, of course, if something is coming out or if there are injuries or other present hazards, those also need to be documented. Now, after damages occur, it's important to maintain photos of the area, markings, damage, make sure that there is a call log documented. Again, time of the incident and notifications throughout the incident, instructions received by emergency responders and professional personnel, and if anybody else was on site that can provide any more information or details about what was occurring throughout that project. We do want you to know, and I'll bring this up again here in a little bit as well, that emergency tickets, they can be reported online or called in, but damage reports are call in only. For a damage report, if you have hit a line, it is a damage report. If you're responding to a line damage, it most likely will be an emergency ticket, but we'll get into that here closer towards the end. So it's important to know what to do. It's also important what to avoid when it comes to damages. So here are the actions to avoid when dealing with any damaged underground line. First, never attempt to repair the line yourself. Leave this task to the professionals who are trained to handle such situations safely. Just because you could doesn't mean you should. Physical repairs are the responsibility of the utility owner. They will have their people manage the line. Next, do not backfill or cover up the damage. This might seem like a quick fix, but it can lead to more significant issues later, including utility decay or buildup of materials, and can cause even more damages. Also, resist the urge to move the line or continue working in the area. Any disturbance can make the problem worse or create new risks. A dent may turn into a break, or a scrape may turn into a tear. So it's important to leave it. Again, stop and move away. Now, need to double check my spelling, but do not leave the work site without reporting or documenting it. It is vital that you remove yourself from the area if there is a hazard, but Be sure to stay on site for emergency personnel and professional responders coming to take care of the scene, and that you are being active at reporting what the damage looks like. Lastly, don't assume that just because there is no visible leak, that everything is fine. Damages can start small and become big issues later. That's including protective coating on gas lines, small nicks in fiber or electric lines. These protective measures are on there so environmental weathering doesn't decay them and cause later issues. So any damage, no matter how small, needs to be reported. Now, when it comes to reporting an emergency, this is specifically held for situations that pose an immediate threat to life, health, or property. This is when an emergency ticket should be submitted. Now, this allows work to begin without waiting for a normal compliant ticket. But it should not be it should only be used for true emergencies. It should not be used for schedule delays or projects being behind if there's not something that is posing a threat to life, health, or property. The excavator should still contact OK 811 as soon as possible and provide clear details about the situation. Now, with that, there is a difference between a damage report and an emergency ticket. Damage report is witnessing a damage occur during your excavation. And it is letting the operator know this line is now damaged. An emergency report is responding to such things that can pose a threat to life, health, or property. So, for example, we can be addressing a gas leak, a water main break, something along those lines. So let's say a water main breaks during road construction and begins flooding the street nearby. The damage is reported, then a repair crew comes in. The lead of that repair crew submits an emergency ticket so the utility operators are aware of the progress. And then the repair crew may respond immediately. However, whenever working on an emergency ticket, again, providing as much time for markings as possible or information of other utilities is imperative. You want to dig as safely as possible, hand digging only, exposing any utilities that do need to be repaired. So, key point is that emergency tickets are for public safety, not for convenience, and it is when you are addressing an emergency, not reporting a damage. So, with that, reporting and documentation, when it comes to an emergency ticket, first, you should have the time, company contact, exact location, of course, just like making any other ticket. What may have occurred? What does the work scope look like for addressing that emergency? If there's a line type that was damaged and needs to be repaired, any present hazards such as leaks, flooding, fire, etc., and try to provide time for locators to come in and mark nearby utilities if applicable. Afterwards, important to take photos of the area, markings, any other potential damage, time of the break, excavation, notifications, call logs, whatever you need documented, as well as your internal policies. It's important to keep a timeline of any repairs or any addresses to those emergencies and making sure that documentation falls into place. Again, emergency tickets can be reported online or call in. Damage reports are call in only. So we want to provide you some additional information before we wrap up fully. Some common mistakes and how to avoid them in excavation. Some common mistakes that are seen are starting before the legally authorized time. It's very important to stick to the work begin on your dig ticket. Ensure that all necessary requirements are in place before beginning any excavation. Another one that we see is not confirming all positive response from utility companies before beginning any work. Failing to do so can result in severe risks. This is the operator's communication, and without it, it's still digging blind. You want to make sure that all that communication is coming through. Another thing is misusing tickets, such as emergency, remark, or extension, which can lead to confusion and delays. Operators do have the right to recover costs for excessive and unreasonable requests. So consider this. The excavator may submit a locate request without a fee through OK 811. However, operators are still paying for the locators mapping and supplies to get those areas marked and located. With that, though, there are some resources. So, to help manage and track your tickets and positive response effectively, you can use the excavator portal or homeowner portal, depending on the type of work, to track and manage those tickets. We also have the OK 811 Learning Hub, which offers a variety of trainings, webinars, podcasts, and certification opportunities. We also have the excavator guides that were recently updated, which include law, best practices, resources, and those are available PDF online on our site at okie811.org, as well as a couple of physical copies. So we have all of these resources in English and in Spanish. Now, we have a variety of resources in Spanish as well. We have webinars every month. We have the excavator guides as well. We have Spanish safety days and a variety of other resources. So, should you have any crew members or contacts working in the field that could benefit from additional excavation safety training in Spanish, we will be having our first Spanish Safety Day of the year on July 10th. Feel free to reach out to education@okie811.org if you have any questions or if you would like to create contact for signing anybody up for that. Alrighty, as we are wrapping up, in our review today, we discussed recognizing what constitutes damage to underground facilities, applying the correct immediate responses should those damages occur, know the difference between a damage and an emergency, know who to report to with what information, properly documenting the incident, both as an emergency or as a damage report, and understanding more about emergency tickets and what that reporting looks like. So as we start to fully wrap up, if you wouldn't mind just taking a moment to please fill out our feedback survey. Thank you all again for joining us today. We appreciate your dedication to safe excavation and damage prevention practices. Should you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to education@okie811.org.